Welcome in, everyone. RFK Refugees podcast. Ted here, John here to break down another thrilling week of DC-related soccer. Some very good soccer and some very bad, and very different on which teams are the good and the bad, which has been almost a reverse. But before we get into that, John, how you doing, my friend? How was your weekend?
I'm good. As we were just talking before the show, I was recounting all of the Disney shows I've been watching. My daughter has started this thing called Disney Song Quiz she plays, where she does name that tune for Disney songs in like 3 notes, and be like she'll hear like a oboe, and she'll be like, "That I know it." So that is also a skill I have, but that is because I have been listening to iPods on shuffle for like 15 years, and I can just tell within one note like father, like daughter, I guess. That was the highlight of my weekend. How about yours?
It was exhausting. I currently doing Saturday, Sundays refereeing, trying to get a more permanent space to live here in Richmond. So I won't go into all the details, but basically we're living as cheaply as we can to try to save some money and get a more permanent spot. So
you don't want to get into the details. Ted, tell the people exactly where you're living right now. Give them your coordinates, your zip code, your longitude in Latin.
I will do no such thing, but
you're gonna get stuff sent to your house if you do that. That's me.
But oh man, I remember that. Yes, but I've back in Richmond, refereeing, exhausting, sore. Not as sore as I used to be. So again, I only refereed on one turf field, so maybe we'll see next week. Next week I've got a tournament, and I know the place I'm refereeing, and it's all turf field. So
not as sore as I used to be is not usually the path this goes. Usually that's not how it happens.
My shape has been a lot better over the past year. I'll say that's
good.
Much. So that's been good. But I didn't do too much today. It was 4 games, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. Gave a double yellow red card on the game and an adult league game, so that was fun.
Was it DC United you were refereeing? Were you giving out? Was that why you're giving all the yellow cards out?
Oh, of course, yeah. Exactly. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's talk DC United. What type of win do we describe this as? A weird, like a odd 2-1 victory, but an important 2-1 victory, and we'll get into the permutations. It really is for me. It's like weird to think about where this team is right now, where they are in the standings. Yes, they are 8th and 9th. Should there be 8 or 9 teams that make the playoffs in MLS? Probably not.
We didn't make that rule though.
we live in that rule. And it appears that DC now, shockingly, if you had told me this even 3 weeks ago, DC United are in the driver's seat heading into the final week of the season. Don't even need to win. They just need to draw to make the playoffs. Wild times we exist in right now. Wild times.
Yeah, I mean, don't listen to our podcast like the last 2 months as far as our sky is falling. Now, listen, there is still an opportunity in 2 weeks to do the most DC United thing here and to just completely drive the car into a ditch and against a team that is just playing for positions and isn't fighting for their life like DC United is. So, keep that in mind. I'm sure most of our listeners will keep that in mind, but it also they have their destiny somewhat in their control, pretty much, and they win and in, they draw and they're in. It is a weird situation. I think you asked me what I would characterize this win as. I would say this was a gutsy win in the way that they basically did similar to other games in the year. They get the 2 goals and then sort of hold on, and it's a question of what it's going to look like. And I don't know. That was not this. New England really wasn't a threat, but it was just like the kind of win that a playoff team will get, and we don't have a lot of those. Like there's this one. There's the last one is like the history book win. This one is just like you got to have these. Like these are win against a team that is got little to nothing to play for. On the road with you're down a center back. Things are just kind of weird. And the pressure's on, and you make it happen. So that's just a gutsy win. The Troy Lesane magic continues to really come into focus here in the last month of the season. And let's see if they can. We'll talk about it, but let's see if they can get one more win, 2 more wins, and win the African Cup.
2 more wins when they that whole scenario. We'll talk about maybe touch a little bit on that in a little bit in the whole situation going on there. But yeah, I mean, I think let's get into the game. We'll get into the game. We'll kind of break it down. DC United needing a win. You talk about New England being done and dusted. I found it kind of funny on the broadcast. They were talking about like the color commentators were talking about, oh, New England, they've really come alive. And I'm like, yeah, maybe like there was a time period, I think in like, I don't know, late August, early September, we're like, hey, maybe this team can make a run. 2 weeks ago, this team was literally fighting with each other at halftime of like their last game. Like they were at home. They were like arguing. They were dudes shoving each other. Vibes are very, very bad. I am very surprised. I kind of thought, man, DC United wins this game, basically buries Caleb Porter. I mean, what are the odds? DC has a habit of doing that. They win games and they get coaches on bad teams let go. Like that's kind of like the last straw. Is like you lose to DC United, you don't deserve to have your job.
Hand in your keys.
So we'll see what happens. Nothing to report yet. I feel like it maybe would have happened now, but it might, they might give Caleb Porter another year. It's certainly a tumultuous situation. So they want
to give Richie Williams another chance. They're going to they'll bring him back in for the third time to be the interim head coach.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's getting to the game. DC United jumps out really early on in this game.
Pedro Santos jumped the route. He was a cornerback and jumping the route. Was it Brandon By? Yeah, who's playing right back, just lazy, just sort of lazy defending with a pass out from Ivicic, and Pedro just gunned the run and then made it look like for all the world it was going to be a cross, it was going to be a play in the middle, and then he just decides, no, screw that, I'm just going to rip this thing near post, and this keeper's going to have no one's going to expect this, and no one did.
Yeah, it's the nature of the really of the game as far as why New England lost this game. Their defense was just it wasn't just like they were just lazy. You talk about it. We'll get to the second goal, like just not really aware, not really ready for this game. I feel like they came out. DC were the ones that were ready to go. They needed this win, to basically push themselves into the playoff, and basically make it so that they're, really, so they have their own destiny in their own hands at home, and they needed to go out and win this game, and they came out and they played like it. Like I said, brilliant taking goal from Pedro Santos, just roofs it. I haven't seen if that got like a goal of the week nomination. I don't know if like the most even do goal of the week anymore. I feel like I haven't seen it in a while. I haven't seen it in a while, but
I know what they are doing is still they're doing. So I talked about this before. Topps does like a MLS card of the week. They do like what happened this week. They make cards. I buy every DC United one. Benteke has like 1 million of them, and for somehow the 2-goal hero, Mr. Jersey, didn't get featured. It was him on the last one. I was like, oh, that would have been good to have. That'd have been nice to have. But they do have goal of the match day still, and it was he was nominated.
He was nominated, so
he was
go
nominated.
vote. Go vote.
That's great. I'm going to vote right now while we're podcasting.
But just a well taken goal. Side volley. I mean, he's really Pedro Santos has been a character. I think that has. I think some people have criticized him in the role he plays. Some people like me are like, he's 35, 36. What do you expect? Only 2 years younger than Wayne Rooney. If you really want to get into those and get into those, and he's done, I think, more of a job. He's played more of a role than I think any team has participated. It's the second year in a row. I think moments like that have shown why he's on this team, why he's a part of this team, and why sometimes he's not really the problem. I think the team should definitely upgrade on him. I am in no way saying that he should be starting. I don't know if he'll even be on the roster next year. I would maybe be okay. Minimum contract, pay him as a coach. Maybe. I don't know. I think he could still find some use for him next year if it is really the limited role that we hope it is.
Pedro, by the way, goal of the week is in second place, 12%, just a smidge behind Leo Campana's game-winning goal for Inter Miami at 68%. So we're not doing so well on the voting apparently. So can you believe it? Inter Miami has a lot of internet fans. I don't think you can believe it.
I think every time they're up for goal of the week, they probably win it. Even
it's the old Sounders. It's back when the old Sounders used to stuff the box, and now it's them. I guess it makes sense.
Yeah. You have some guy Messi. I hear is pretty good. So
I hear that. I hear he may win the MVP, even though he's probably injured.
Might be DC's playoff opponent if things go well. We won't get too far ahead of that, but wow, it's still
the
wild.
joy I would have in just ruining MLS's life, knocking him out of the playoffs. Man. But we would have to print DVDs. We would have to make a commemorative scarf.
Charlie Sane and Ali Mackay get the statue right away.
Benteke
Hall of Tradition. Yeah, it'd be wild. We got a long way to go before we go.
We're almost there.
We got a long way to go before we get to that. So let's just pause a little bit. Let's take a deep breath. All right. Back to the game. Obviously DC get on the first goal. Well taken goal. New England look, and then it was, just a few minutes later, long ball over the top. Arriaga just kind of holds up his run and loses a foot race to Christian Benteke, and nearly everybody loses the foot race to Christian Benteke. Heads the ball in the back of the net. I believe his 23rd goal of the year. 25.
That's what the card said that I bought this morning.
Yeah, yes, 23rd goal, 23rd league goal, and then also the 25th all-purpose goal. So he had 2 goals, of course, in Leagues Cup, which is the only other tournament we played in. So I think he ties a record for most goals to Raul Diaz Arce in 1996, which is just wild. The goal is not, is certainly not a highlight reel goal. It's not a goal of the week. It's not a classic goal. It's not a goal that really makes you appreciate Christian
Wayne Rooney would be pumping his fist at the Route 1 English style football there. That's just a kick it hard and high.
Right, but not a necessarily a not a goal that you look at and you say like, oh man, what a great goal. But I think it just shows he's going to win the Golden Boot. To me, this just solidifies him as, in my opinion, I think without question now, he's the best designated player signing this team has had.
Not close.
Let's again, I feel like I've asked this, is he Hall of Tradition? Do we?
No.
You don't think so yet?
I don't think so yet. If we make a run in the playoffs, yes.
Yes. So if we make a run in the playoffs, well, what about let's look ahead next year. Next year he gets, let's say he doesn't do 20, let's say he gets 15 goals, he gets 5, 6, 7 assists. So he has a pretty good year. There's other scoring around the team, but the team is let's just say competing top of the table. Maybe they're not first or third, fourth, we'll say. They're in that level. Maybe they make a run to we'll say a conference final. They make a run to a conference final next year. But they don't win MLS Cup. I think
I need to look again at who is in the Hall of what is the standard?
It's more definitely long-term players. Bill Hamid would be in there.
Did Emilio make it?
To be fair, I think John Harkes is in that Hall of Tradition. And he only played 96, 97, 98, maybe 99, and then he was traded. So 4 seasons, not a whole lot. But again, obviously people are going to be screaming at me. Yes, I know 3 MLS Cups. I want to check that, by the way, to see when John Harkes was there. But yes, I know 3 MLS Cups. He obviously deserves to be in that Hall of Tradition. I'm not at all saying that they're comparable anyway. 96, 98. So he actually only 2 MLS Cups with DC. So and then he went to New England. So
do you know that DC United on their webpage does not have anything about the Hall of Tradition from 2011 was the last thing they posted about it. So
yeah,
cool.
It's been a while. It's been a while since they've done that. So
anyway,
I bet
yeah, why not? It's certainly the player that might have turned the page, right?
Yeah, and I think you have to, on a certain sense, you have to kind of adjust with how the league sort of adjusted. The league was very, very different, back in the early days with who stayed here, how long players stayed here. Longevity is not a thing. If Jaime Moreno had, say, entered DC in I don't know, and had put up some of the numbers he put up in the early 90s, Raul Diaz Arce as well, those players would have probably gotten transfers to Europe. If you took the era and moved it and you kept the same production, those players would have probably moved to Europe. So it's a different era. It's a different type of player you're signing. So I think he should be under consideration. I think there's some players that should go ahead of him. Bill Hamid, Steve Birnbaum, I think should definitely get there just for longevity's sake. I think Russell Knaus, once he hangs up his cleats, should certainly be on that list as well for how long he played with the team. Those are my 3. Those are my only 3 that I would consider for that. But
I will tell you, no Hall of Tradition, but still supporters content Creators Network is still on the website. So
cool.
We got that. We're still on the internet. We're still there.
All right, but Christian Benteke with the goal. And then from then on, it was kind of like, and we'll get into sort of the lull, the sort of the game set in. I think DC United kind of jumped out to that 2-0 lead. And then it was like, okay, we don't have to push this game anymore. They kind of sat a little bit and they sort of just told New England to, take the ball, come try to beat us. And I thought defensively, they held up extremely well. It was another game similar to the one against Columbus where they sort of played above themselves defensively. Matty Patola, we'll get into his unfortunate moment, but I think had another just really strong performance. I think he has been, of this sort of, last, I'd say 4 or 5 games, seeing him step up the way he has, in a position that people have said is not his strongest position, but has just played so well. I don't know if it's like the temperatures have dropped, so now he doesn't feel like he's playing in like the summer heat. So hopefully that adjusts. Maybe this will be just the thing with him where like early season he's good, and then he fades when it gets hot, and then he comes back when it gets cooler. But overall, like just another like I think strong performance from him. Bartlett out there, Herrera again. Really New England didn't develop much. Now they were like I think they were ready to pack it in. The fans had a sign that said where's the fight. I don't know. Do you have any different perspective on the sort of defensive performance and kind of how everything came?
Not really. I will be honest. I was looking at the golf tournament pictures from DC United today, and I was really curious if Jaime Moreno was on there. He was not. He did not attend. I would also not. That's not cool for him to be on that, to be serving there again. I think defensively. From a DC United, we're talking about DC United perspective, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I think they controlled. They did this thing where they did not allow a lot of high yield chances. I don't think they did that sort of that situation. I think Bartlett was excellent again, and this was again without McVay, so they were still they were already having to compromise sort of their back line again. Herrera did his thing on the outside as he often does. I love how much he gets into the attack. But defensively, I thought against a team that did not have a lot of sharp tools, I thought we did fine. I thought we did really well. And the goal that we do concede was just unlucky. And he was actually playing pretty well before that, I thought.
Yeah, there were moments. There were certainly moments that didn't sort of yield itself to, Gill got in the back, or you had either Gill getting really back. 0.8 was the team expected goals for New England in this game. So again, not
Football has 0.59.
Yeah, 0.59. So again, pretty strong defensive performance. Only 13 shots, only 2 on target for New England. I think DC still had a couple other chances, to do it. I guess that the only frustration, again was I felt like you had a moment where you maybe wanted to go out and get that third goal,
yes,
and really just kind of put this game beyond reach. Bury it, DC. It was like even 2-0. You're just like, this, this, and it nearly happened. Like it very nearly happened with how this game went. You just knew that DC wasn't going to be a team that, that was going to be able to sort of hold New England scoreless, and they didn't. Even though it comes from an own goal, they didn't surrender a goal to a New England attacker. But I really wanted this team to kind of put the stake in, bury it, be done with it. And I think that, that came down to, I think maybe just kind of a little bit of a lack of energy after the goal. Let's get into.
I also wonder too, maybe it was tactics, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe like you get the early 2-goal lead on the road. Maybe there was more of because I think Benteke was isolated for much of the game, like even more so than usual. I think they were pushing the midfield back a little bit. It's particularly like the last 20 minutes. It was just to lock it in. I want to talk about Pirani too. And how I was right.
Well, and also to your point, this team is trying to avoid yellow cards. They did a fairly decent job this time. Let me see how I was trying to remember 2. The yellows. Yeah, two yellow
Bartlett
cards.
And Santos. And Santos was a dissent one.
Yeah. So, again, not great. I'm about to check. I'm not sure if Bartlett was on. I don't think he was on yellow card accumulation. Benteke was the real worry. He was on his last yellow card. They needed to avoid that. I don't remember the person on Discord. If you're asking the question, Well, what happens if he picks up a yellow against Charlotte? It actually won't matter. The yellow cards reset, and they literally say if you pick up a yellow and then you have a game in the playoffs, you are not suspended for that playoff game. So
good.
Benteke is off the list, and you could tell late in that game he was like jumping, but kind of like half jumping and being like, "Oh, I'm not gonna," I mean, a tie, giving up a tie versus having him missing for that final game would be just a devastating blow. And I think it was worth it. It was worth it for, this team needs to learn how to defend and they need to learn how to hold leads. And I think this was kind of an important moment. Let's talk Gabriel Pirani. Starts the game. We kind of went, well, who's going to start? Is it going to be Ted Pietro? Is it going to be Gabriel Pirani? Answer was yes. Both Ted and Gabriel Pirani were out there. Yeah. Let's preface this. Okay, let's preface this. I think these past few weeks, Gabriel Pirani has gone from a player that I think John and I have both said, we're not sure if this guy should really stick around. Maybe we get somebody else in. We're not sure we see anything there that this guy can really be good or grow. It is now turned into there's something there. It might be a positional switch. It might be something else. But we want him back next year. I want Gabriel Pirani back next year. I think there's something there to him. This performance was not good. This was back to the old Pirani, and I think I don't want to steal your thunder, John. This is your one to go. So I'll let you talk.
It is well only because this has come up and it explicitly happened as we discussed. Like it was basically like he scored these 2 goals. You got to sort of ride the hot hand, and this has now been even when times are good. I think this pattern has actually happened before. He'll score as a substitute. He'll score late in the game. He'll get brought on to start, and he does not look dangerous against rested, non-tired defenders or against midfield. He does not have the same sharpness. Also, he presses more when he starts. He had like 2 to 3 shots that I think were nowhere close and probably had other opportunities. 3 total shots, none of them on goal. So
yeah, a lot from outside the box too, which I think is his most frustrating aspect. He needs to.
The stats are not good.
He's doing a better job, I think, in that sort of reserve midfield role, kind of being more of that underlying forward. Getting forward. I think he's finding more passes. He's finding more connections out wide. He's doing a better job with that. I won't say this was a completely wasteful performance. He had a couple. I think one good moment, like one good dribble, one good
created a chance
with Ted Pietro. I thought Ted Pietro was still like a much better player than Gabriel Pirani out there. And I think Ted, I don't think had a great game either, but I saw more from Ted on the dribble, being a connector, kind of moving the ball, progressing the ball, getting the ball into space than I saw from Gabriel Pirani. And, there were just decisions that Pirani made where I'm like, buddy, you don't have to take that high challenge shot, maybe sit a moment, think on it. Yes, you're 2-0 up, so maybe you can have a go. You can have a go at the goal. But yeah, so anything else you want to add on his
Boris? He now almost scored his first goal on a
rocket.
Yeah.
He looked, I will say this was the first performance I saw out of him, not just out of the past where I saw, okay, I can see it's starting to come to him a little bit. The game's starting to come from, I wonder if there's a, settle in period. He thinks he's going to start. Oh, I can chill. And then now you've got Matty Patola coming out here playing well and kind of pushing him a little bit. So guys getting kind of pushed, all over the field for starting spots, for roles. I thought he looked better off the bench. Again, he has that shot. If that goal goes in, this game is like a non-contest. And I want to call it, I don't think Jared Stroud had a little bit, probably his roughest game I think I've seen. And I think that's why DC kind of struggled a little bit offensively to really develop. Not a whole lot was coming down that right side. So,
but the good news is that we had a recently injured player, David Schnegg, return to the roster, which then can probably change, or the active roster that could potentially change what our backline looks like going forward. So we can go back to the four-man backline potentially.
Yes. Yeah. So hopefully, and we'll see, he'll probably, I imagine he will get some minutes in the Africa Cup would be my guess. I don't believe he's probably not going to get called in because of his injury. I wouldn't imagine he gets called into the Austrian national team.
I hope not. They better not.
I don't think they will. I think he's on the bench. He clearly isn't ready to play. I'm sure they're in communication as to what his status is. So, I don't think he'll be there. But
if you want to be our RFK refugees correspondent for Africa Cup, please inquire within the DMs. We'll see what we can do. Get you up close and personal.
Yeah, I'm just hopeful. No injuries. I think Benteke, everyone who's important, Benteke gets a rest. Everybody gets a rest. Who's playing minutes? Maybe we get some guys in. Maybe I'd be curious to notice the status of guys like Akambone, of Hopkins, guys that have been out for a while. Maybe it's an opportunity to get them minutes, to get them to
the only one. This is it. They've got to figure it out. Get at least 15, 20 minutes in there. I want them to play it like Celtic, where they were just like, Benteke, you can watch. You can play in the 5 minutes. Click, you can play 10 minutes. And even that, I would probably say no. I would just say, just week of training, guys. Relax. Take it easy.
Yeah.
I'm wondering who gets the opportunity here. Like you said, Akambone will probably play. Baji will probably play. Knaus will definitely play.
Yeah.
Crockford and Zamudio will play. Tubbs will play. Sargis will play. Merle will play. McVeigh might play since he was injured. Get some work. Hopkins, Garay.
Yeah. Oh, one other call from this game. I thought
also Rowden players will come in.
Yeah. Also one other call from this game since she brought up Jacob Morel. Jacob Morel was in the game and started on the and came in sort of on the left wing. I think he came in for Ted Kudu-Pietro, or played his role at least. And
that's not
his spot. I think late in that game, when DC were pushing, or when New England were pushing, Merle struggled a lot, and basically New England were able to just kind of waltz right into that. He did not do a good job kind of holding down that wing spot. So again, he's young, he'll learn. I'm not expecting perfection out of him, from a guy who's basically just played striker as a professional. So, but let's talk about, obviously we haven't talked about the goal, but unfortunate own goal from Maddie Petola. He's trying to clear the ball. He's trying to, and I think Bono was frustrated because he's like, look, man, I had that. Like, I read it all the way. I was just going to step up, collect it. And, just some communication issues. I think an unfortunate goal. I think there's some people that, will maybe jump on him for that. I think it's unfortunate that it kind of overshadows what I thought was, again, another strong game from him. And then, New England kind of woke up, and I saw that goal and I was like, oh goodness, is this where it I keep waiting for these moments where it all unravels. And boy, let me tell you all, I'm hopeful that things are going to go well in 2 weeks' time. But believe me, Decision Day has been a horror show for DC United in multiple ways. Things have almost never gone well for us on Decision Day. I can't remember the last time we had a consequential Decision Day win. I do remember, I think the Sada era 2021, we won on Decision Day, but it really didn't matter. And then we won against New York City FC 2-0. So we've had moments, but Decision Day has tended to be a horror show. And last year we didn't even get a Decision Day game because our season basically ended because we were one of the odd teams out. But yeah, it's been a horror show for us. We got Charlotte coming into town. They have been pretty good this year, kind of maybe a step above of where we thought sort of the ceiling of our team would be. Again, 1-0 loss in Charlotte last time. We have them at home. We'll see. Anything else you want to close out on the New England game? Maybe let's talk a little bit. Let's talk some playoffs. Let's talk some permutations on who we want to see. Maybe see DC play. So just wanted to get you any last thoughts you had on the game.
Yeah, no, just Charlotte having scored 6 goals in their last 2 games, and over the last 4 games have scored 11 goals.
Yeah. So
this should not be a 1-1 affair, 1-0 affair. This should be high flying.
All right. Let's get into the permutations. Let's get into the match. So obviously top 7 teams in the East have all been solidified. New York, by the way, hilarious post from some of the New York Red Bulls fans. I saw some posts about how they are the team has promised that they're going to be better, and they literally are about to finish maybe one spot ahead of where maybe a couple spots if they do well, but just like solidifies how this team wants to be taken serious, wants them to take seriously, and they just keep falling short. Interesting note: if DC can get their act together, they can. New York Red Bulls don't seem too interested. But DC right now in 8th place, have in the driver's seat. Just need to go. If they pick up a win, nothing else matters. They will be the 8th seed. They will host the play-in game. We will get playoff soccer at Audi Field. And if we win that, we get at least one other home game, probably against Miami with Messi, which would be wild and would kill any hopes I had thought about going to a playoff game, because I no doubt tickets will be wildly expensive.
We're going, baby. It's happening. If they're whoever they're playing, we're gonna figure it out. If it's a standing room ticket, we're gonna make it. It's gonna happen.
Okay. We'll see what happens. The DC United 8-9, 8-9. Montreal in 9th right now. They are also tied on 40 points. Somehow I have a worse goal differential than DC at -18. Toronto have finished up their year. They are eliminated because they have no hope. So sort of akin to what happened with DC, where they were 9th last year, but eliminated because behind them is Philadelphia and Atlanta. Philadelphia currently has the edge on goal differential with a +8 goal differential, which is just wild to think about that they're here, and DC's ahead of them at -15, but that's but that's MLS. So the base story is DC wins. They lock up that 8th spot. If they lose, then you have either Montreal, a combination of two of the three, either Montreal, Philadelphia. Montreal get a point, they pass us. Philadelphia or Atlanta both win, they're done. So it's very easily could go completely wrong for DC. But we'll see what happens.
I'm gonna be there, and it's gonna be miserable. It's just gonna be miserable.
Yeah, you think it's gonna be miserable? What's gonna?
Yeah, it's just gonna be so tense. Even in this last game, I was like, this is very uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna. I'm gonna probably have enough adult beverages to chill me out, because otherwise I'm gonna be very anxious.
Yeah, but so let's talk. And then obviously, DC gets a point. They're in. That at least guarantees them 9th. If Montreal wins, they will jump ahead of them. So they're the only chance to basically move ahead of DC. For Philly and Atlanta, if they win and DC gets a draw, they will not pass them. And if Philly loses, so basically, point probably 8th. I think Montreal have New York City FC, which are a pretty good squad. I think I'd rather be playing Charlotte than New York City FC. Of the opponents, so of the possible opponents, let's talk. Obviously, we want the home game. We want the home playoff game. We won't talk about whether one of these teams on the load, but Montreal, Philadelphia, or Atlanta. Which of these three teams do you want to see in the play-in game?
Not Philadelphia.
Yeah, definitely not.
That's the only one I refuse to play. That is the game that I would consider not purchasing a ticket to, because that will certainly crush my dreams. So the options are Montreal, Philly, and Atlanta.
Yes.
I think that I would most want to play Montreal. I think Montreal and Atlanta are pretty tied to me. Atlanta is pretty soul crushed. Like they're this would be the best time to play them in the playoffs since they originated, since they existed. They're limping into the playoffs with 1 win through 5. Philly has lost 2 in a row, but I don't care. That doesn't matter at all whatsoever. And Montreal has won 3 of their last 4. So, no, thank you. Please give me Atlanta. I guess weird to say that.
Yeah, I think unfortunately I could see us playing. I could see us getting Philly. I think,
hate that. Oh,
I think both Atlanta and Montreal are going to trip up. And I think Philly, I think we'll host. I think we're gonna get at least a point out of Charlotte. I think the team's gonna be ready to go. I think they are going to be motivated. Obviously for Charlotte, there are some permutations as far as where they can get 5th and play like something like Orlando. But I once you get 5, 6, 7th, I don't know how much it really matters. Honestly, getting 4 and 5 means you're going to run into Miami. But then again, for me, it's like, you're probably either going to run into Miami or you're going to run into Columbus. And to me, it's like 6 and 1/2 dozen of the other. Like both are going to kill you in different ways. Like
I would think if I'm them, I'm starting my starters. I'm going to give it a good 60 minutes. And then after that, I'm gonna make sure that we get out of there fully intact with all of the players we can't afford to miss, and whatever happens at that point, like we're ready for the playoffs. So you did, as long as you don't lose a stinker 4-0 going to the playoffs. I think from between 4th, 5th, and 6th, not super consequential. I don't think. I think they should just be worried about becoming whole and not like getting a thumped to sort of mess with the confidence. Other than that, I wouldn't go crazy if I was them. Maybe that's wishful thinking. I don't know.
The way you have to look at this is you have 2 weeks basically now. So you have players that are going to go on international break. That's going to be challenging, I think, for some.
Maddie's one of those.
Maddie's one of those. Aaron Herrera, I'm assuming, is one of those. So please stay healthy. would be the call. But other teams are going to have players go away for international break. It's the nature of the game. But if you still have plenty of starters that aren't going to be on international break, so they're going to have 2 weeks off of no games. You do not want to. The biggest criticism that the playoffs used to have for some teams, for teams that particularly finished first, it was that they had like 3 weeks before they actually played any games. That's part of the reason why MLS went to this sort of 3-match system, was to basically prevent the first round from teams kind of just like having sort of a one-off game and falling off, and they get sort of a chance to play a bad game and still not have their entire playoff season, dashed. They can sort of recover from it. So, and also to guarantee, at least one home playoff game. There is certainly a monetary reason. But I think another sort of sporting reason was you had all these teams that were, winning, that were top of the table and then they had 3 weeks off, and then they looked extremely rusty against teams that had played a couple matches beforehand and were beating those teams. So I think this was a way to kind of, level the playing field a little bit. I think it worked as you got, literally the top teams, in the past playoffs. So So again, you're going to want to play your starters in this last game. You're going to want to keep that symmetry up, keep guys fit, keep guys fresh. If you slack off and rest players, even if you have nothing to play for, you're still going to potentially run into problems unless you've got injuries to deal with. Guys are going to play their starters. So I expect Charlotte to roll out their starters. I expect Montreal, Philly, Atlanta, obviously to roll out their starters. Every team to roll out their starters, even if there is absolutely nothing for them to play for. I still expect it. So we'll see. It's going to be fun. Prediction time. What do you got?
I'm going to go 3-2 DC United, and in the most tense game possible, where I am busting out antacids and Tums in the parking lot afterwards. That's my guess.
Yeah, you stole it right out of my mouth, man.
Sorry.
3-2 is what I got. It's wild, this team, and this is something I think this team needs to look at next year. Their home record 4-7-5 right now, bad. Like 4 wins, 7 losses, 5 draws. Their away record is 6-6-5. So they have a better away record than they have a home record, which is like wild to think about. They're like one of the top teams when it comes on the road. Charlotte, by the way, is pretty poor on the road. They are 4-8-4. So they actually have a worse record on the road than DC does. So food for thought as we head into that game. But it's going to be fun. I am looking forward to this. This is, it's nice to have it. We did not think we would be here. Like 2 weeks ago after the 5-0 loss to Philly, we all said that was it. Like, this is it. Wild how things have changed like so quickly.
Definitely good that podcasts are rather ephemeral and people don't really keep a good track of what you said prior. That's the good thing about it.
I mean, I knew they were mathematically. I was just like, I just saw that Philly game. I was like, if they don't come out here and like beat Philly, it was just like going to be done. And I was like, but I had in the back of my head, and I was like, watch this team. Like, I didn't think it would be this. I didn't think it would be this controlling your own destiny. I thought we might, after that Philly loss, I said the best case scenario would be we somehow like limp a couple of points. Everybody else kind of like craps the bed, which happened. Like the results this weekend, like could not have gone better for DC. It was like every team that they needed to lose lost or didn't pick up a point. Like everything just went DC's way. And that's why we're sitting in this position. I kind of part of me back head was like, I bet this team will sit still alive on decision day, but we'll need like a whole bunch of things to happen.
No math really required this time.
One last thing.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go doomsday here. Doomsday scenario: we lose.
Yeah.
And we miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
How are we feeling about this year?
Good.
Man, I will tell you, like being in the situation we're in, it would be, for me, it would be, I would not be like, oh, Troy gone, everybody gone, blow it up. I'd be like, all right, I think we got something to build on this year. At this point, man, it would be really disappointing. You're at home. Charlotte are ahead of you.
It'll be sad.
Yeah, it would be massively disappointing. And to be in this situation right now, I think was like, this is what I wanted. I looked at this team and I said, I'd love to break into that top 7. I think maybe if people stay healthy, the talent's there, and the people weren't healthy. And I was like, if not that, like, I'd like to see us get into the playoffs. If we can get one hosted playoff game at Audi Field, would be incredible. I feel like it's going to be an incredible miss if they don't get that 8th seed. You have it in your hands. You control your destiny. You literally could probably get a draw and probably make it. Like, literally, a draw probably puts you in this. It gets you a home game. That's all you need. But go out and get the win. Win assures it. So, I mean, for me, it would be disappointing if this team can't put it together.
It would be. I feel like you have to enter in. I think you have to have the perspective of 5 weeks ago in 2 weeks.
That's fair.
Now. I think we're certainly on a better trajectory than we were a month and a half ago. I think the hope is there. You can visualize the path forward, and you and I know as well, or more than anybody, sort of the hurdles and handicaps that this team had along the way. And then once everybody got healthy to a certain degree, they were able to be consistent, and they were able to do that. And there haven't been that long run of health in this team. So, I'll feel good no matter what. I know that I'll feel a lot better leaving the stadium if they do win. And I'll also be sad and, whatever, if they lose. But I think as we have the podcast that next Monday, I think we'll be I will be circumspect regardless of the outcome. I'll be right down the middle.
Yeah. But win we won't have a problem.
Win, we're in. Before we move to Spirit or anything else, I want to flag something for our favorite people in the world, our Patreons. This is just something that I am reading, so I want to make sure you notice this. If you subscribe to our Patreon, and if you do, we love you. And if you don't, we'd like to love you more. You are going to be charged more if you sign up to be our patron through the iOS app because of app stores. If you want to support the show and have the money go just to us and not to Apple, because Apple doesn't need any more money, do it on a browser, like a millennial. Get on a computer and not on your phone. Type it in and then go it that way. Otherwise, they'll take an extra cut. Have you seen this thing, Ted, where Gen Z make fun of millennials for making big purchases on computers rather than phones? Are you familiar with this? Like this meme that's going on? I'm
familiar with this now.
Have you? If I didn't I have to travel all the time for work, so I've gotten very comfortable purchasing on my phone. But like, if you had to purchase, so say right now, we're gonna have a little bit of diversion here. Say you had to purchase tickets to Europe, and they were like $2,000. Would you? And you were home. Would you do it on your phone, or would you go to your computer, the one you're at now, and do it on the computer?
I would go on my computer because it's a major purchase that you have to like.
That's millennial coded. This is a millennial coded thing. Gen Z doesn't care. They do it on their phone and even think about it. I just thought that was so. Be like a millennial and go to patreon.com and sign up there. That's all I'm asking you to do. Thank you for your indulgence.
Yeah, be a millennial and
be a millennial.
Also,
most of our listeners are. So
also the call out to Apple users who have not updated iOS 18 and turn on RCS. So you can actually betterly interact with our Android people. Please do that. Don't be a snob. I made my wife do it. I said, download iOS 18. You're going to turn on our RCS. We're going to have better communications. I told my dad, and I'm gonna work on when I see my mom. I'll update her phone and turn it on for her because she's not.
Stop making it seem like my camera is a 30-year-old point and shoot. I don't know if you see what pictures look like on the iOS side from Android. It looks
I'm sure it's bad. Yeah,
it's hilarious.
If you turn on RCS,
you should.
You should turn it on. I'll have to check if John has it on. I'm gonna go.
I think I do. I'm sure that I have friends of all persuasions. So I'm sure
we've gotten completely off the rails as is
because why would we want to talk about this spirit game?
Yeah,
if we really think about it. Why would we want to do this?
You know what's wild? If the Andy Sullivan news, which we'll get into in a minute, the Andy Sullivan news comes out, I am more positive DC has a chance to win MLS Cup than I do the Spirit to win NWSL Championship, which is wild to think about.
Mm-hmm.
The Spirit played Orlando with maybe the hope of getting a draw and sort of postponing the champagne for their supporter shields. They were unsuccessful, and the injury report came out. Lacey Santos out, Trini Rodman out, which was possibly expected. Hal Hirschfeld out. So those were kind of the Santos and Hirschfeld were the two sort of maybe surprises on the roster of players that were out. There you go. Good boy. So were the two surprises on the roster. John really doesn't want to talk about this fair game.
I really don't. Andy Sullivan's my favorite player. I don't even want to talk about this game.
Andy Sullivan, close friend of the show with the amount of time she's been on as an interview. So yeah, man, she goes up with an injury. The devastation. We have seen this team play without Andy Sullivan. We have seen this team try to manage it. Maybe there's been some improvement. Maybe they've thought about it. Maybe we'll be fine. I don't know, man. If this is as bad as it looks, this might be sort of the death nail for this team. I think they'll make the playoffs. Maybe they make a run, but trying to compete with some of the bigger teams, I just don't. It's going to be tough.
Hal Hirschfeld has to become Superwoman.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe clone herself. The problem is this team does not have depth in this position at all. They don't. They've got it everywhere else on the field in some ways, but nothing here. And there's nothing coming. So it's a big concern. We don't know as we're recording here on Monday night. We don't know. I've seen people speculate she's been dealing with meniscus issues throughout the year, so maybe it's just that. Jonah was asked in the press conference. He said, "I don't know, but it looks bad when a player is carted off like that." It is bad typically. So, you got to cross your fingers. You got to hope. It's just, it's not great.
What is your solution in your mind? If it is bad, what would you do? Do you pay, is it Hirschfeld Mateer? Do you move Mateer back into the defensive midfield spot, even though it's been kind of not great? She's looked much better as sort of that right-sided player. I think there's an argument, maybe bring on an extra attacker up top.
I don't know.
Move Lacey Santos deeper in the field. That's an idea I have. Maybe that could work. I don't know. It just feels they really just don't. They don't have a good answer. Like Andy Sullivan. Trady Rodman's the best player on this team. Andy Sullivan is like the most irreplaceable player when you talk about it. So.
Mark Krikorian needs to spend money and time figuring out what that looks like. What does next year look like because right now they want to pair two midfielders that are both basically serving as eights. They're both linking, and Lacey Santos cannot be pushed further back because without a healthy Trinity Rodman and without a Croy, they have trouble generating any chances up the middle. So they have to have Lacey needs to be closer to goal. I don't know, man. It's going to be tough. Whatever they're going to have to figure out, it is. To your point, the optimism is halved if this is a long-term injury. No matter else who comes back in, it's just really unfortunate to go this entire way in this position, and then now find yourself here in a game. I was half thinking we were going to roll out a skeleton crew anyway because the supporter shield was going to be decided either this week or soon. It wasn't going to make it. We were not going to overtake them. We had some major injuries short and we're on the road and, it's tough. And then you saw the injury report with Santos out and I'm trying to think, were there any others? You said there were some surprises. I'm trying to remember.
How Hirschfeld was out. So again, hopefully that's just precautionary. I'll be curious to see what the lineup looks like next weekend. They are Sunday, 5 p.m. against Racing Louisville. And then they have, game against the Red Stars. Hopefully you can pick up two wins there. You can sort of solidify second place at least. It's going to be tough though. I'm curious to see, how the coaching staff figures this out because it's going to be yeah,
And
it's rough.
we didn't actually talk about the goals or the game really in general. And the game, the stat that matters most to me was Orlando 6 fouls, Washington 22 fouls.
Yeah.
They knew going in that this was going to be a hack-a-shack type of situation, and for quite some time, for 57 minutes, it wasn't pretty, but it was working until the penalty was on Mickey Owen too. Correct,
Yeah.
I think it was, and then she has an own goal 20 minutes later. So rough night for her, but they didn't. It's tough, right? I think the Seb Hines had basically been frustrated about saying like he didn't know what he was going to expect the way the Spirit were going to play, which the analysis was like, because no one plays their own game against Orlando, they all try to game plan Orlando and try different stuff. And the game plan here is transparent. We don't have our horses, so we are going to muck things up. We're going to kick your best players. We're going to keep Marta. We're going to keep Barbara Bond out of this game. We're going to try to do our best to make this ugly and maybe get out of here with a draw and be happy about it. But offensively, I did not see the spark was not there for this game. Orlando's a good team. Not really surprised, but
they were pretty unfortunate. They had one good opportunity I saw was kind of a really nice save from Morehouse, the keeper. So they had moments. They had moments where maybe they could have gotten a goal, gotten some momentum, and maybe pulled something out of this game. But I mean, overall, it was just. I mean, you have 10 shots, 4 on target. I haven't seen any sort of XG. It's a lot harder to find the XG stuff, but
it shouldn't be, but it is.
It probably wasn't. There's not much really can say about this game. Orlando were the better side. They absolutely dominated the chances. They dominated the possession. Spirit let them have that possession. It was not a fun game to watch, I'm sure, for fans. PK and an own goal kind of tells the story that it really was not. It was not an enjoyable event, and sort of unfortunate goals for the Spirit to give up. So.
Morehouse last week set the record for clean sheets in a year and then gets another one. So this is a team that no one wants to play going to the, odds on favorite, right? I feel like if you were to look right now at NWSL futures odds, Orlando would be negative 400 to win the championship, maybe even higher.
Yeah, and I would say now that the Spirit have, what's happened with them, I would say that it has helped Orlando's chances. I think the Spirit were maybe the one team that could push them 100% healthy. The amount of talent, dynamism, they were sort of maybe the team that no one would want to play against. Yeah, we're assuming Trinity Rodman is just like it's all precautionary. Maybe she's back next week, or maybe sort of the last couple games, maybe she's healthy. That's going to be the story to watch. And again, of course, Andy Sullivan as well. I'm hopeful that they were just like, she's like, yeah, it doesn't feel good. And I was like, okay, we're not even going to chance this at this point. We're just going to, you're done. We're going to cart you off. We're going to basically not do anything. We're going to put you on bubble wrap and, maybe things will be better. The Trinity moment we all thought was really bad. And then it turned out to be back spasms. So hopefully a similar moment here. So remains to be seen. We'll see what the injury report looks like. I think with that's going to do it. I don't think there's anything else we really need to talk about.
I just was curious. Oh no, I'm sorry. Orlando Pride is still a plus 230 to win the championship. The Spirit are plus 320 now. I bought them at plus 750 in June, which I felt very confident about then. Now I kind of want to cash it out.
Are you getting a good cash out on it?
No, $7 on a $5 bet.
$2 extra makes
maybe so, because I'm really. I guess I'll wait for Andy news.
Yeah,
if it's confirmed ACL, I may take a $2 profit and move on. I was also hoping to attend the game in person, but now I have work travel on that weekend, so I can't go, unfortunately.
Yeah, the betting odds might be like, oh, Andy's out. We'll see
I don't think this is the good thing. This is the good thing about NWSL being a backwater
and
for the betting
too.
That's true. They don't update things very quickly.
Yeah. All right, folks, that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for listening. We're back on a normal Monday. And hey, we had a mostly good show without any technical issues. We did have to reduce the quality.
I think we had a very good show, Ted. I think we had some really good diversions and digressions. I think it was good.
Mostly, I'm talking technically. Everything held up, which is good. Which is good. All right, folks, we'll talk to you later next Monday. Vamos.